What happens when a beloved British actor's famously calm demeanor finally fractures under pressure? In just 43 seconds, Lorraine Kelly's cheerful morning show unraveled into chaos, leaving viewers stunned and the host scrambling to maintain control. Last night, exclusive footage surfaced of what's now being called the most shocking celebrity blow-up in daytime television history. And what you're about to hear may forever change the way you see Britain's favorite morning presenter. Good morning, and welcome to this exclusive breakdown of the television moment that had social media buzzing well past midnight. Today we revisit the exact moment when Colin Firth, the ever-composed Pride and Prejudice star, hit his breaking point live on air. The show began innocently enough. Bright studio lights, Lorraine's trademark smile, and that familiar purple sofa. Colin was there to promote his latest film, a straightforward interview for one of Britain's most respected actors. But from the second he stepped onto that set, something was off. Friends describe Colin as thoughtful, measured, unfailingly polite. Yet that morning, the tension in the air was impossible to ignore. Right then, we're absolutely delighted to have the wonderful Colin Firth with us this morning. Lorraine began in her sing-song lilt. Then came the pivot, the first red flag. Now, Colin, darling, I have to ask you about something that's been all over the papers this week. Viewers saw it instantly. The subtle shift in Colin's expression, the tightening of his jaw. He'd come ready to discuss his film. Instead, Lorraine dove headfirst into tabloid waters. The thing is, she continued, lowering her voice to that practiced, gossipy tone, everyone's been talking about your personal life lately. Our viewers deserve to know the truth. Colin straightened, his composure intact but brittle. I'd really prefer to focus on the film today, Lorraine. That's what we agreed to discuss. His tone was calm, but beneath it, warning. Lorraine pressed on. Oh, come now. You can't expect to appear on television and not talk about the elephant in the room. Our audience is smart, Colin. They know what's going on. The cameras caught everything. The furrow of his brow, his hands gripping his knees a little too firmly. And what elephant would that be, Lorraine? He asked, voice low. Her smile widened. Well, the separation rumors, of course. You and Livia. After 20 years of marriage, surely you can give us something. The silence that followed lasted seconds, but felt like an eternity. Colin Firth, Mr. Darcy himself, sat frozen. Ambushed. I see, he said finally. 2 words. But the weight behind them landed harder than any dramatic monologue. So this was never about the film. For the first time that morning, Lorraine faltered. But she recovered quickly. Now, don't be like that. We're all friends here. I'm only asking what everyone's thinking. Friends? Colin repeated, his voice cutting sharp enough to silence the studio. Is that what friends do, Lorraine? Invite someone under false pretenses, then ambush them with questions they specifically asked not to answer? The atmosphere shifted instantly. The playful morning chatter was gone, replaced by something cold, raw, undeniable. Lorraine laughed nervously. Oh, now you're being dramatic. It's just a simple question. You're a public figure, Colin. These things come with the territory. Colin's reply was quiet, but surgical. Being a public figure doesn't mean I forfeit my right to privacy. And it certainly doesn't mean my family's pain becomes your entertainment. The studio audience held its breath. Morning television had never felt this heavy. And Lorraine, whether out of stubbornness or desperation, kept pushing. Look, I understand you want to protect your privacy, Lorraine said, leaning forward with what seemed like sympathy. But the edge in her tone betrayed her. Let's be honest. Your photographs are everywhere. Sources are speaking out. The story is already public. I'm giving you a chance to set the record straight. Colin's laugh was short, humorless, cutting through the studio silence. "You're giving me a chance. How generous of you, Lorraine. And what am I meant to be grateful for? The privilege of watching my marriage dissected like a soap opera storyline? That's not what I'm doing," Lorraine insisted, but her voice had slipped. Defensive now, thin. Viewers could hear it. "I'm simply asking you to address the rumors." "No," Colin replied, firmer this time. "What you're doing is exploiting gossip for ratings, dressing up curiosity as public service. This is the kind of tabloid ambush that makes actors avoid interviews altogether." The words hit like a challenge. Lorraine's smile faltered, her face flickering between shock, indignation, and something that looked dangerously close to panic. "I think you're overreacting," she tried, her voice stripped of its earlier confidence. "This is morning television, Colin. People expect a bit of fun, a bit of gossip. It's not meant to be the BBC News." Colin rose slowly from the purple sofa. That single movement shifted the entire atmosphere of the studio. "Fun?" he repeated, his voice low but lethal. "Is that what you call this? Prying into a marriage without consent? Turning personal pain into light entertainment? Now, hold on just a minute." Lorraine shot back, her voice rising as she realized she was losing control. "You knew what kind of show this was when you agreed to come on. Don't act like you're some sort of victim here." The word landed like a blow. "Victim," Colin echoed. His voice had changed, quiet but charged, more powerful than shouting. "You lure me here under the guise of discussing my work, then ambush me with questions about my family. When I object, you call me dramatic. And now I'm the victim?" Lorraine's mask was slipping fast, her composure once flawless, cracked with every second. "Colin, please, sit down. Let's just calm down and have a proper conversation." "A proper conversation?" His voice rose at last, his control breaking apart. "Is that what you call this? You've spent this entire interview ignoring boundaries I made clear, digging for scraps I never agreed to share. And now you want me calm?" The camera wavered, uncertain where to land, zooming from Colin's blazing expression to wide shots of Lorraine shrinking under the heat. In the background, producers gestured frantically, panic written across their faces as the segment collapsed live on air. "I'm just doing my job," Lorraine said, but the words sounded hollow now, stripped of conviction. Colin turned fully toward her, his eyes burned, not with theatrics but with real fury. "Your job? Your job is supposed to be interviewing, not interrogating, entertaining, not exploiting, and at the very least, showing some basic level of respect." The studio was silent except for his voice, which seemed to fill every corner, echoing like a stage performance he hadn't planned to give. "And do you know what the worst part is, Lorraine?" he pressed, leaning forward slightly. "The worst part is that you sit there with that smile, pretending you care about me as a person, when the only thing you care about is whether I'll hand you something salacious enough to trend on Twitter." Lorraine's mouth opened, closed. Nothing came out. For perhaps the first time in her long career, she looked truly speechless. But Colin wasn't finished. Years of frustration with invasive media seemed to erupt in that single moment. "Do you have any idea what it's like to have every private detail of your life treated as public property? To watch your family's pain served up for breakfast television chatter? Colin, I think you need to remember where you are," Lorraine finally managed, her voice trembling as she tried to grasp control of the wreckage. "This is live television," Lorraine reminded him, her voice taut. "There are millions of people watching." Colin's reply came swift, cutting through the air like a blade. "Oh, I know exactly where I am, Lorraine. I'm sitting across from someone who believes that having a TV platform entitles her to pry into people's lives without consequence. I'm in a studio where basic human decency doesn't seem to apply, as long as the cameras are rolling." The accusation hung heavy, smoke curling in silence. Lorraine's face drained of color. For a fleeting second, she looked genuinely shaken. "That's not fair," she whispered. "Fair?" Colin let out a bitter laugh. "You want to talk about fair? Was it fair that I came here in good faith to discuss my work, only to be interrogated about my marriage? Was it fair to spend this entire interview trying to extract details that could wound the people I love most?" Lorraine straightened, clinging to authority. "I'm a journalist, Colin. I ask the questions people want answered." "No," Colin said firmly, pointing at her now. "You're not a journalist. Journalists have ethics. They respect their subjects. They don't ambush people and then hide behind their job description when challenged." The words hit like a slap. Lorraine's presenter mask crumbled, replaced by something raw and defensive. "How dare you! I've been doing this for decades. I've interviewed everyone. Prime ministers, world leaders, Hollywood royalty. I don't need an actor telling me how to do my job." Colin's expression shifted, anger giving way to something colder, almost pity. "And in all those decades, Lorraine, did you ever stop to think about the cost? Did you ever consider the damage you might inflict on real lives? For the sake of a few minutes of entertainment?" The question struck home. Her face cycled from indignation to confusion, to something dangerously close to shame. She began. But Colin raised a hand, silencing her. His voice dropped low, disappointment cutting deeper than fury. "Do you know what the truly tragic part is? We could have had a perfectly good interview today. We could have talked about the craft of acting, about my new film, about the industry itself. Your viewers could have learned something meaningful. Instead, you chose to turn this into a circus." Lorraine tried one final time to regain ground. "The audience wants to know about your personal life, Colin. That's the reality of celebrity culture." Colin shook his head slowly. "No, Lorraine. You want to know. You've convinced yourself your curiosity equals public interest. But what this really is—" He paused, eyes locked on her. "Is voyeurism dressed up as journalism." The silence that followed was suffocating. Even the crew had gone still, frozen by the spectacle unraveling before them. Colin turned his gaze around the studio, at the cameras, the lights, the stunned audience who'd come expecting morning chatter and instead witnessed dignity under siege. "You know what saddens me most?" he said finally. "Out there somewhere, young actors are watching this, and they're learning that this is what awaits them, that their private lives are commodities. That respect is optional, as long as the ratings are good." He turned back to Lorraine, whose composure was in tatters. "Is that the legacy you want, Lorraine? Is that how you want to be remembered?" Her voice, when it came, was barely audible. "I'm just trying to do my job." Colin reached for his jacket draped over the sofa. His movements were deliberate, unhurried yet final. "Then maybe it's time to ask yourself if this job is worth compromising your humanity." He stepped toward the studio exit. For a moment it seemed he might leave quietly, but then he paused, turned, and delivered his parting words with the weight of someone carrying years of unspoken frustration. "You had a chance today to remind your viewers that celebrities are human beings, deserving of dignity, deserving of respect. Instead, you proved that gossip matters more to morning television than human decency. I hope it was worth it." The studio doors closed behind Colin Firth with a soft click that seemed to echo louder than any applause. Lorraine Kelly sat frozen on her purple sofa, surrounded by cameras, crew, and an audience that had witnessed history. The bright, cheerful set suddenly felt cavernous, stripped of warmth. For long moments, no one moved. The woman who'd built a career on charm and ease stared blankly at the empty seat where Colin had sat just moments before. When she finally turned back to the camera, her trademark smile was gone, replaced by something raw, unsettled, unrecognizable. "Well," she said at last, her voice cracking, "I suppose we should take a quick break." But everyone watching knew a break wouldn't fix what had just unfolded. Some fractures are too deep for a commercial interruption or a fresh cup of tea. The most shocking walkout in daytime television was complete, and the questions it raised about media ethics, celebrity culture, and human dignity would echo long after the broadcast faded to black.